Our guest on this program is from baseball's Hall of Fame, John Peter Wagner of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And here are some of the records, fellows, that Honus Wagner holds. He led the National League in runs scored in 1902 and 1906. He led the league in home runs in 1908. He had the most hits in 1908 and 1910. He led the National League in hitting for 8 years. He scored the most runs, made the most hits, batted 300 or more for 17 straight seasons. He played 100 or more games for 19 straight seasons. He's played in the most games, has the most total bases, the most one-base hits, the most two-base hits, and the most three-base hits. In 2 years, he led the league in runs batted in, and in 5 years, he led the league in stolen bases. And he holds the record for the most times at bat, more than 10,000 times at bat. No wonder Honus Wagner is in baseball's Hall of Fame. Well, where does the name of Honus come in?
Well, the name of Honus comes in like this. When I was a young fellow, of course, everybody had nicknames, and they'd call you anything. And, of course, my name being John, they abbreviated to Honus, which is part of John in German.
How'd you happen to take up baseball as a profession anyway?
Well, my brother happened to be a ball player ahead of me, and, of course, I was working out with him all the time, and he got me my first job at Steubenville, Ohio. He was playing with Steubenville, and the manager said to get me and bring me along to Steubenville. So he sent me a wire and a telegram, offering me $35 a month. I showed this telegram to some of the boys around town, and they said I ought to have more money. So immediately I wired back to Steubenville, Ohio, and I said, I'll come for 40. Back came a telegram, come for 35 or stay home. I got on the next train that happened to pass through Carnegie. It happened to be a coal train, and the conductor, his name was Joe Chambers, and he said you could come down to Steubenville on the coal train, and that's how I happened to start out in baseball.
When was that, Honus?
That was in 1895. That year I played with Steubenville, and after about 2 weeks the team broke up. Then I went to Mansfield, Ohio. From there I went to Adrian, Michigan. And from Adrian, Michigan, I went to Warren, Pennsylvania, and Illinois League. Them was the 4 teams I played with that year.
Well, I know it's asking you to go way back, but just how'd you do in your major league game, the first one you ever played in?
First one I ever played in was at Louisville, Kentucky. I belonged to Louisville then, and we played again a team from Washington. And I happened to just get 1 hit in that game. And the pitcher again me was Kid Nichols. He'd formerly been with the Boston team.
What year was that?
That was in 1897.
And was Louisville, what league were they in then?
Louisville was in the major league. There was only 1 league at that time. In other words, it's a national league. There was 12 clubs in the league at that particular time. And since that, in 1900 rather, Louisville, Washington, Baltimore, and Cleveland dropped out and left the National League as it is today.
Do you think the game was rougher in your day than it is today?
Well, I think it was a whole lot more rougher in those days when I first started out. I'll tell you, the young fellow didn't have much of a show. I remember playing with Louisville when I first started out. I couldn't even bat in batting practice. I was playing regular every day, but the old-timers told me to get out of there. I had no business batting. And another thing, we'll go along and say this way. We take one time that was playing against Chicago. Played them a series of 3 games. They beat us 2 out of 3. And they mussed us up. They spiked us and throwed balls at our head and done a lot of things. So the next trip, Chicago come to Pittsburgh. Our manager got all the players in the clubhouse. He said, listen, lock all those doors, put everybody out of here that don't belong to the ball team. He said, I want to give this team a pep talk. After everything was quiet, he said, listen, boys, this Chicago team's coming here today. He said, we got to beat those fellows if we want to get anywhere in the race. We got to beat them. Remember what they done to us in Chicago in that last series? How many of you fellows, he said, got hurt? 11 fellows got up and said they got hurt in that 3-game series. All right, he said, now listen, he said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He says, I'm going to offer $100 to the guy who does the most damage to that Chicago baseball team. So our pitcher for that day happened to be Hired Camlett. He got up and says, listen, manager, he says, I can't hit or get on bases, but I'd like to get in on that $100. The man says, well, you figure your way out. He says, I've got it figured. The man says, what is it? Well, he says, I'll get 1 strike and no balls, or 2 strikes and no balls on the batsman, Then he says, I'll throw two at his head. Manager says, that's fine, go to it. Well, after a little pep talk like that, he said, now listen, boys, go out there and get 'em. And he said, if I catch any of you fellows talking nice to those fellows, if you don't cuss 'em, said, even cuss 'em, he says, but if you talk nice or say hello to 'em, I'll fine you $100. So after his pep talk was over, the boys that had new shoes put on new brand spikes, and those that didn't have 'em got out files and sharpened 'em up. Now I said, go out and get 'em, boys. Now that's the way the teams of the old days used to get out and talk before a game. They do the same thing now, like manager McKechnie of the Cincinnati Ball Club. He gets his team in there and he gives them a little pep talk. But it don't run like that. Here's the way the talk goes. He'll say, now listen, boys, we're going to play that Pirates today. Now we'll have to get after 'em. He said we want to get all their weakness. Now here's the first batter up. We'll say Pete Koskarot, for instance. He'll say, well, now, the pitcher, says the pitcher, how are you going to pitch to Koskarot? Well, he says, I'll pitch that fella high outside. Well, he says, what's your reason? Well, he said, if I can make him hit the right field, he don't hit the ball so hard as he can hit it out in left center or something like that. And then he takes up all the players of the Pirates and goes down until the pitcher says he's going to pitch this way. The reason he says that, so the outfielders and infielders can move in the direction where he's going to try to make the batter hit. After it's over, McKechnie says, now go out and get 'em, boys. Play 'em hard and play 'em fair. The boys go out and talk to each other, and they say to L.B. Fletcher, how about chew tobacco, L.B., and so forth, and they mix together. In former years, you couldn't do that.
Hello everyone, I spend a lot of time trying to get you guys nice videos, so please subscribe to this page, and please subscribe to my second page. The link to my second page is in the description section. Thank you.